UFO drew audiences into a fictional war between humanity and aliens. But in real life, the show's cast had to face a very real enemy: death. Some passed away from cancer, some died of grief, and a few slipped away quietly, without anyone noticing. These are names you once loved, and perhaps never knew how they had to leave, and under what circumstances. George Sewell as Colonel Alec Freeman. When UFO aired in 1970, George Sewell took on the role of Colonel Alec Freeman, Shadow's second-in-command, with a calm and steely demeanor that captivated audiences when he was 46 years old. But behind that man was a past full of scars, hidden beneath the military uniform and piercing gaze. Born on August 31, 1924, in Hoxton, London, George grew up to the sound of printing presses from his father's shop and the boxing matches of the Cobblestone Kid, his father's nickname. Leaving school at 14, he joined the Merchant Navy and later wandered through various professions: carpenter, photographer's assistant, even a rumba band drummer. But it wasn't until the age of 35, over a beer in a pub with actor Dudley Sutton, that his life took a fateful turn toward the stage. Gangsters, policemen, crime bosses, these roles came to him as if destined, but none as iconic as Freeman, an immortal image in the hearts of fans. Privately, however, life wasn't so forgiving. The death of his wife, Helen Logan Davies, his partner of over 40 years, deeply affected him. He retreated to a holiday home in the south of France, where loneliness and darkness became his closest companions. George Sewell took his final breath on April 2, 2007, at the age of 82, after a battle he couldn't win against cancer. His net worth was estimated at around $2 million, not from fame, but from a lifetime of collecting unforgettable roles. Ed Bishop as Commander Ed Straker. Ed Bishop played Commander Ed Straker in the series UFO when he was 38 years old in 1970. With eyes sharp as knives and striking platinum blonde hair, he was not only the leader in battles against extraterrestrials, but also became an irreplaceable icon in the sci-fi genre. However, behind that authoritative uniform was a man bearing deep wounds no audience ever saw on screen. Born on June 11, 1932, in Brooklyn, New York, Bishop was once an art student with a passion for theater before turning to film in the UK. He married 3 times and had 4 children, but it was the tragic accident that took the life of his daughter Georgina that plunged him into the darkness of depression. The hero of Shadow quietly crumbled in silence. To make things worse, near the end of his life, he also had to fight leukemia. In 2005, while undergoing treatment, he developed a chest infection and passed away just 3 days before his 73rd birthday. Ed Bishop died on June 8, 2005, at the age of 72. His net worth was estimated at about $3 million, modest for a television icon. Worse yet, he died just 5 days after his co-star Michael Billington, who played Paul Foster, also passed away. The 2 men who helped make UFO legendary now lay side by side, in an ending almost too sad to believe. Michael Billington as Colonel Paul Foster. Michael Billington played Colonel Paul Foster in UFO when he was just 29 years old. Behind the futuristic uniform and masculine face, Paul Foster was a symbol of ideals, loyalty, and survival instinct. But what viewers didn't know was that Michael Billington in real life also once fought against a deeply personal pain etched into his heart. Born on December 24, 1941, in Blackburn, England, Michael grew up in a modest environment, passionate about the arts, and once worked as a teacher at the prestigious Lee Strasberg Acting School in London. Although he was repeatedly considered for the role of James Bond, luck never smiled on him. Instead, fate brought him a deep romance, and later the source of tragedy, with actress Catherine Christoph. They married in 1988 and had 1 son, but happiness lasted only a decade. In 1998, Catherine died after a long illness. From then on, Billington was never the same. In a rare interview in 2000, he uttered just one sentence: "She was the reason I still believed in life." Michael Billington passed away on June 3, 2005 at the age of 63, just 5 days before the death of his co-star Ed Bishop. Cancer had brought an end to his painful days, a man once radiant on screen, yet deeply lonely in real life. His net worth was estimated at around $1.5 million, not much, but what he left behind cannot be measured in money. Dolores Mantz as Lieutenant Nina Barry. At the age of 34, Dolores Mantz, as Lieutenant Nina Barry, was the embodiment of elegance, intelligence, and strength in a man-dominated world in UFO in 1970. With her striking purple hair, she became the visual icon of the entire series, winning the love of audiences everywhere. But behind the camera, Dolores's life was one of sacrifice-filled choices. Born on February 17, 1936 in Liverpool, Dolores, the daughter of an African father and an Irish mother, began her career as a singer before stepping into film. But fate had other plans when she met Robert Harding, a businessman she encountered in a pub during a blackout in the mid-70s. They quickly married and had one son. Dolores gave up acting, gave up the spotlight to become a mother and a wife. Everything seemed complete until Robert died in 1999 from a serious illness. That shock split her life in two. Dolores became reclusive, distanced herself from the media, and lived quietly in memories. Dolores Mantz died on November 30, 2012, at the age of 76, after a silent battle with cancer. Her net worth was estimated at around $1 million. On the old vanity in Sydenham, where she spent her final years, her son placed a black and white photo of her in the shadow uniform with a handwritten note: "Mom, the first woman I knew who could save the world." A simple farewell, yet enough to bring any UFO fan to tears. Norma Ronald as Miss Eland. Norma Ronald played Miss Eland in UFO at the age of 33, the discreet yet irreplaceable secretary of Commander Straker. In a universe where aliens invade Earth, Eland was the symbol of steadiness and mystery, always quietly watching from behind the scenes at Shadow. But Norma's real life held more secrets than the character she portrayed. Beneath that gentle exterior was a woman silently enduring devastating shocks that no one ever knew, until it was too late. Born on March 1, 1937 in England, Norma Ronald began her career during the 1960s television boom and quickly made her mark through The Planemakers and The Power Game. But her real-life happiness lay off-camera, in her marriage to the famous actor Edward Judd. They had 2 children together and were once considered one of the rare power couples of British television. However, when Judd passed away after a prolonged illness, Norma didn't just lose a husband. She lost her support, her whole world. In her final years, she was both a single mother and a silent fighter battling cancer, a battle with no stage, no audience, and no happy ending. Norma Ronald drew her final breath on November 20th, 1993, at just 56 years old. Her net worth was estimated at only around $800,000, a modest figure for someone who was once the quiet soul of many television programs. When she died, a close friend recalled, "Norma never wanted anyone to know she was hurting, because the greatest role of her life was hiding that pain." Grant Taylor as General James Henderson. Grant Taylor was 53 years old when he portrayed General James Henderson, the stern and powerful general of Shadow in UFO, 1970. On screen, he was the commanding voice, a man who never wavered under pressure. But in real life, Taylor was hiding a storm beneath the surface. Born on December 6, 1917 in England, Taylor moved to Australia as a child where he began his career as a professional boxer, a path demanding both strength and steel-like resolve. From the boxing ring to the stage, he conquered all genres, from war films to drama. But behind the scenes, the greatest shock of his life didn't come from Hollywood. It came from his own home. His wife, Beth Rona, whom he had always described as the calm heart in a turbulent life, passed away from a serious illness. The grief was too much. Taylor no longer had the strength to rise again. Just months later, he was diagnosed with cancer. Grant Taylor passed away suddenly in April 1971, less than a year after UFO premiered, at exactly 53 years old. His net worth was only about $500,000, a number that could never reflect what he left behind on screen. Vladimir Shaal as Dr. Doug Jackson. When he appeared in UFO in 1970, Vladimir Shaal brought to life a cold, intelligent, and enigmatic Dr. Doug Jackson, a psychological expert caught between an alien war and the shadowy recesses of the human mind at the age of 47. With his mysterious Eastern European accent and eyes that seemed to pierce the soul, he didn't need many words to make his character unforgettable. But behind that masterful performance lay a past ravaged by war, exile, and a private sorrow, only revealed after he was gone. Born on March 12, 1923, in Poland, Wladek grew up during one of Europe's most chaotic periods. After surviving World War II and the German occupation, he emigrated to England, where he reshaped his life by studying at Merton College, Oxford, and entering the world of film. Before long, he became one of the rare Eastern European actors to rise to prominence in British cinema, notably in From Russia with Love, 1963, and later in UFO. However, that spotlight could never soothe the emotional wounds he bore after his beloved wife died, following a long battle with illness. His final letters to friends were filled with loneliness. "Every night I hear my wife calling my name in my dreams, and in the morning, the room is still empty." Vladimir Shaal passed away on October 16, 1992, at the age of 69, after nearly a year fighting cancer. His net worth was estimated at around $1.2 million, saved from international roles across film, television, and stage. When his London flat was cleared out, a black and white photo was found, his wife, sitting and reading in the morning sunlight, placed in a silver frame on his desk. It was the last image he looked at each night, and the one thing he never let go of: Lois Maxwell as Miss Holland. When Lois Maxwell was 43 years old, she appeared in UFO in 1970 as Miss Holland, a fleeting supporting role, but one that couldn't be overlooked by those already familiar with the icon she once built, Miss Moneypenny from the James Bond series. Under the lights of Shadow's control room, Miss Holland spoke only a few lines, but ironically, it was Lois, the woman who always stood behind powerful men on screen, who had to fight alone against unbearable loss in real life. Born on February 14, 1927, in Ontario, Canada, Lois Maxwell won a Golden Globe early in her career and portrayed Miss Moneypenny for more than 20 years, from the era of Sean Connery to Roger Moore. But behind the spotlight was a story few knew. Her husband, Peter Marriott, a military officer, died suddenly of a heart attack, leaving Lois alone to raise their 2 children. At the time, she had no film contracts, no lingering Bond glory, only the emptiness of a cold London. In a rare article, she once wrote, "I used to play the woman who waited for 007, but in truth, I was just waiting for Peter, and he'll never come back." Lois Maxwell passed away on September 29, 2007, at the age of 80, after many years battling bowel cancer. She spent her final years in Australia with her daughter, far from Hollywood, far from the public eye. Her net worth was estimated at around $3 million. Not much compared to her impact, but enough to reflect the respect she received from audiences around the world. At her funeral, one detail touched everyone. Her son placed on her casket an old film reel, the original footage of Moneypenny and Bond saying goodbye. George Cole as Paul Roper. At age 46, George Cole played Paul Roper in the episode Conflict of UFO in 1971. A brief role, but memorable for his classic British accent and calm, trustworthy demeanor. With that composed presence, few would have guessed he was the soul of the character Arthur Daly in Minder, a national television icon that lasted through the decade. But behind the stage lights was a shadow he always carried. A shadow cast by the man he once called his second father. Born on April 22, 1925 in Tooting, London, George Cole grew up in poverty and was adopted just days after birth. His career began in his teens, but the turning point came when he met veteran actor Alastair Sim, who taught him everything about acting and life. That friendship lasted for decades, until Sim's death. Cole was devastated. In a rare interview, he admitted, "When Alastair died, I didn't just lose a friend. I lost the compass of my life." From that moment on, he became more reserved, only accepting roles that truly mattered. His personal life was quiet, but his old age grew heavier with unspoken health issues, causing him to gradually withdraw from the screen. George Cole passed away on August 5, 2015, at the age of 90, after spending a long time living in rural Hampshire. His net worth was estimated at around $5 million, the result of a lifetime dedicated to film and television. But his spiritual wealth was far greater. A complete actor, not because he was famous, but because he never stopped being loyal to friendship, to his craft, and to himself. Gabrielle Drake as Lieutenant Gay Ellis. When Gabrielle Drake accepted the role of Lieutenant Gay Ellis in the UFO series in 1970, she was only 26 years old. With metallic purple hair and a cool, composed demeanor, Gay Ellis was the only woman in charge of the moon base, the shadow outpost in space's tense universe. But then, something strange happened. Her character gradually vanished from later episodes, without any official explanation. Loyal UFO fans began to ask questions. Something wasn't right. It was said that the reason had to do with her personal schedule, but the truth was deeper and darker. During the filming of UFO, Gabrielle became involved in a series of sensual roles in films that exploited female imagery, including Au Pair Girls, 1972, where she appeared in a controversial nude scene. This breakaway in image made UFO producers nervous. Could Lieutenant Gay Ellis still retain her military seriousness if audiences had just seen her in a sexually charged film? The result, the character of Ellis was gradually pushed aside due to image control and prejudice. But the shocking part didn't stop there. Gabrielle didn't just lose a rising role, she also received anonymous death threats from obsessed fans who couldn't accept a sexy Ellis. She once revealed in a private interview, "I got a letter telling me I should die on the moon so that Gay Ellis would never come back." After that incident, Gabrielle virtually disappeared from the sci-fi scene. She retreated to the stage, to supporting roles on television, and gradually faded from the spotlight. However, in 2018, her husband, artist Louis DeWitt, passed away after a long illness. They had lived together at Wenlock Abbey, an ancient monastery they transformed into a living art space. After Louis died, Gabrielle remained alone within the cold stone walls and among hundreds of her husband's unfinished paintings. As of 2025, Gabrielle Drake is 81 years old. She lives reclusively at Wenlock Abbey, the place her husband once called the most beautiful construction site in the world. She no longer performs on stage, but occasionally appears at UFO conventions like Fanderson, always radiant, yet cautious. Her estimated net worth is around $3 million. In a rare moment when asked about the role of Gay Ellis, she looked down at the floor, stayed silent for a long time, then said, "I'm not sure I ever played her. Maybe I was just her for a time, before they took her back from me." No one truly knows what Gabrielle endured after the spotlight faded. But anyone who has seen Ellis's gaze understands. There are memories that, even erased from the screen, still live forever in the dark. Wanda Ventham as Colonel Virginia Lake. When Wanda Ventham stepped into the UFO universe as Colonel Virginia Lake in 1970, she was 35 years old. Lake wasn't an original character, but once introduced, she immediately commanded the screen. Intelligent, composed, and needing no man to define her worth. But in real life, she had to sacrifice a great deal to maintain that strong gaze. In 1957, at the age of 22, she married James Tabernacle, the first man in her life she believed would walk the entire journey with her. They had a daughter together, but that marriage was no paradise. For many years, Wanda lived in a relationship filled with silence, where love slowly turned into obligation, then duty. When she took the role in UFO, audiences saw a hardened Virginia Lake. They didn't know she brought onto the set the cracks of a marriage on the verge of collapse. In 1974, she and James officially divorced. Afterward, she was nearly cut off from her eldest daughter, a wound she still avoids discussing in interviews. Then fate brought her to Timothy Carlton, an actor she worked with in A Family at War in 1970. Love came when both were broken. They married in 1976, and that same year, Benedict Cumberbatch, their only child, was born. But life is never simple. While Timothy Carlton continued his acting career steadily, Wanda almost gave up all leading roles to become a full-time mother. She stepped behind the scenes, watching her son grow more famous, more celebrated, and at times labeled Sherlock Holmes's mom. She once whispered to an old friend, "They call me Benedict's mom as if I never existed before that." Now, at age 90, Wanda lives quietly with her husband in England. Her career spans Doctor Who, The Avengers, Emmerdale, and UFO. Yet public memory often circles back to just one thing: being the mother of Benedict Cumberbatch. Her estimated net worth is around $3 million, but what no one can put a price on are the roles she once fully embodied, only to be overshadowed by someone else's fame. Aisha Bro as Lieutenant Aisha Johnson. When Aisha Bro was just 22, she played Lieutenant Aisha Johnson in UFO in 1970, one of the space control officers at Shadow headquarters. With her modern beauty and elegant aura, she wasn't just part of the show's futuristic aesthetic, but also brought youthful energy to a world brimming with conspiracies and invasions. This role was just one of many bright milestones in a career that seemed destined never to fade. After leaving UFO, Aisha all but vanished from major stages. TV appearances became scarce, and it was that silence that raised eyebrows. A rising star, suddenly stepping down. Why? Those close to her whispered of broken marriages, first to Christopher Brow, then to Steve Alder, and finally to financier Michael Levy. She married 3 times, and each ended quietly. She was once seen alongside Roy Wood, the rebellious rocker of Electric Light Orchestra. He wrote a song just for her in 1973, but that recording was never widely released. The media speculated about a love story that never blossomed. Later, Aisha changed her name to Aisha de Havilland and stepped into a new role as a motivational speaker, a turning point that many still can't decide whether to call a rebirth or the quiet withdrawal of a heart once broken. Today, at age 77, Aisha lives a private life. All we know is that in every one of the 20 UFO episodes she appeared in, she always wore a necklace with the letter A, perhaps a symbol of identity or a charm of protection. Her estimated net worth is about $1.5 million, enough for a comfortable life, but not enough to reflect the light she once radiated. Jane Maro as Joe Fraser. Jane Maro entered the UFO universe in 1971 in the controversial episode The Responsibility Seat at age 30. Playing Joe Fraser, the seductive woman who spent the night with Commander Ed Straker, Maro delivered one of the boldest scenes in the entire series. It was precisely because of that scene that the episode was banned in Italy for many years. And it was also because of that role that Jane Maro became a fleeting but unforgettable icon of the whole show. But if you only know Maro from UFO, you're missing an entire mysterious world behind her. Born in 1941 in Hertfordshire, she was the daughter of an English mother and a German Jewish father, a man who fled the Nazis before World War II. A childhood without religion but filled with the legacy of exile, Maro grew up in the shadows of history and the lights of the stage. She once won the Shakespeare Cup at the Kent Drama Festival, graduated from the prestigious RADA, and nearly became the next Emma Peel in The Avengers, a role that ultimately went to Linda Thorson. As for Maro, she was cut at the last minute, a painful wound from Hollywood that no one ever talks about. But the critical blow didn't stop there. After her breakthrough performance in The Lion in Winter, 1968, in which she played Alais, the mistress of King Henry II, Peter O'Toole, Maro received a Golden Globe nomination. The press called her Britain's new muse. But then, nothing. Instead came supporting roles in a string of American TV series: Mission, Impossible, MacGyver, Barnaby Jones, The $6 Million Man. Keen-eyed viewers might recognize her, but Hollywood never gave her the opportunity she deserved. Many years later, she admitted in a brief interview, "I think I lost my way." And then, just when everyone thought she had settled in Los Angeles for good, Jane Maro unexpectedly returned to England in the 1990s to run a family business. She only reappeared for the anniversary events of The Prisoner in Portmeirion in 2006 and 2008, quietly signing autographs and quietly leaving. In a rare stage comeback in 2009, she played Emilia in The Comedy of Errors with a Shakespeare company in Idaho. In 2025, at age 84, Jane Maro continues to live a quiet life with her loved ones, doing the things she enjoys more. Her estimated net worth is around $2 million, a modest figure compared to those who once shared the screen with her. Yet her legacy endures through every role, from the mind reader in The Prisoner, to a king's mistress, to the woman who caused Italian television to ban an episode of UFO. Though they are gone, the cast of UFO lives on in the memories of fans, through every scene, every glance, every line that has now become iconic. But behind each role, which tragedy haunts you the most? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue joining us on these emotional journeys into the hidden heartbreaks of classic television. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.